The story begins on the crowded, sunburnt streets of Lagos, Nigeria, a city that never sleeps, where dreams and despair share the same sidewalk. Among the chaos of shouting traders, honking danfo buses, and smoky suya stands, a young boy named Toby wandered barefoot, wearing rags that barely clung to his body. His ribs were visible through his shirt, his hair thick with dust, and his eyes, oh, his eyes, carried the kind of pain that only hunger could carve into a person's soul. Every day was a battle. He scavenged through dustbins outside restaurants, hoping to find something half-eaten, a piece of bread, a discarded bone, a cold slice of plantain. People often pushed him away. "Go from here, dirty boy!" a woman shouted one morning when Toby tried to pick a crust of jollof rice from her trash. He looked at her, mumbled, "Sorry, ma," and walked away quietly, clutching his empty stomach. He had no family left. His father had died in an accident when Toby was 8, and his mother had fallen ill not long after. When she passed, no relative came for him. The little room they lived in was taken by the landlord, and Toby found himself sleeping under bridges, on sidewalks, and sometimes behind shops where night guards tolerated him. But even in his misery, Toby never stole. He begged, yes, but never snatched. And maybe that was what destiny saw in him. One afternoon, the sky turned gray, and the air smelled of rain. He was sitting beside a busy roadside, holding an old nylon bag that contained his only possessions, a torn shirt and a broken radio he found one day. The first drops of rain fell, and the traders began rushing to cover their goods. Then he saw her. Amara. A girl about 17, wearing a simple green school uniform and carrying a plastic bag filled with leftover food. She stopped beside him as if guided by something invisible. "You haven't eaten, have you?" she asked softly. Toby shook his head, too ashamed to speak. Without hesitation, Amara opened her bag and handed him a piece of fried yam and a sachet of water. "Here. Eat." For the first time in weeks, Toby smiled. "Thank you," he whispered, voice trembling. He ate slowly, savoring each bite as if afraid the food would vanish. Amara watched him and sighed. "What's your name?" "Toby." "I'm Amara," she said, extending her hand. He hesitated, unsure if his dirty fingers should touch hers. She smiled, took his hand anyway, and shook it. That single touch changed something deep inside him. The rain began to fall harder. Amara looked around, then said, "Come with me. My mama won't like it, but you can wait on our veranda till it stops." He followed her hesitantly through narrow streets until they reached a small compound of cement houses, where children played under the rain and women shouted over buckets of water. Amara's mother, Mama Ifeoma, was a strong-faced woman who didn't like strangers. "Who is this boy?" she asked sharply. "He was hungry, Mama. I gave him food," Amara explained. Her mother frowned. "You don't know where he comes from. These street boys, they can steal." "He won't," Amara said quietly, looking at Toby with certainty. "He's different." Mama Ifeoma sighed, shook her head, and went back inside. Toby sat under the veranda, shivering slightly, watching Amara sweep water from the steps. When the rain stopped, he stood up. "Thank you for your kindness," he said. Amara smiled. "You'll be fine, Toby. Don't lose hope." He left that night, but her face stayed in his heart. Weeks passed. Toby still slept under bridges, but now he worked small jobs, helping carry loads in the market, washing plates for food vendors. Every evening, he passed by the street where Amara lived, just to see her from afar. Sometimes she noticed him and waved. Sometimes she slipped him a small loaf of bread. That gentle kindness became his light in the darkness. One day, while working at a mechanic's shop, he overheard two men talking about a free computer training program at a local NGO. Something inside him sparked. He didn't even know how to type, but he wanted to learn. He ran there after work, barefoot, sweat dripping down his face. When he arrived, the woman at the front desk frowned. "Do you have any documents?" "No, ma." "School certificate?" He looked down. "No, ma. But I want to learn." The woman sighed, about to send him away, when another voice interrupted. "Let him join. We can teach him from scratch." It was a man named Mr. Adewale, one of the trainers, a kind soul who believed in giving second chances. That was how Toby's journey began. At first, it was hard. He couldn't even use a keyboard properly. Other students laughed at him when he pressed the wrong keys or stared too long at the monitor. But every night, he stayed behind, practicing on broken computers long after others had gone home. Amara visited one afternoon, bringing him Gary and groundnuts. "I heard you're learning computers," she said proudly. Toby nodded shyly. "I want to change my life, Amara. I want to become somebody." "You already are somebody," she replied with a smile. "Just keep going." Those words fueled him. Within months, he became the best student in his class. He learned not just computers but also graphic design, basic programming, and business communication. When the program ended, Mr. Adewale called him aside. "Toby, you have talent. Don't waste it. I'll recommend you to a friend who owns an internet cafe." That was how Toby got his first real job, sweeping floors and fixing minor issues at BrightNet Cafe. He worked hard, arrived early, and left late. The owner, Mr. Ibrahim, noticed his diligence and soon allowed him to assist customers. Toby began saving every naira he earned, dreaming of the day he could rent a small room and stop sleeping in the mechanic's shed. Then, life tested him again. One night, thieves broke into the cafe and stole several computers. Mr. Ibrahim accused Toby. "You're the only one who sleeps nearby. You must have told them." Toby pleaded. "Sir, I swear I didn't." But the police were called. He spent 2 nights in a dirty cell before Amara found out. She went to Mr. Ibrahim's office, crying and shouting, "He's innocent. My friend would never steal." Mr. Ibrahim relented after another thief was caught selling the stolen monitors. He apologized to Toby, but the damage was done. The humiliation, the distrust, it broke something in him. He packed his few belongings and left. That evening, Amara found him sitting under a tree by the lagoon. "Toby," she said softly, sitting beside him, "you can't give up now." He looked at her, tears glistening in his eyes. "Every time I try to rise, the world pulls me down." "Then rise again," she whispered. "Even the sun sets, but it rises the next morning." Her words struck deep. He realized that the only person who truly believed in him was Amara, and he made a silent vow that one day he would become a man worthy of her kindness. Months passed, and Toby worked odd jobs again: car washing, cleaning offices, fixing phones. He used every chance to learn new things. Then one evening, while cleaning an office, he overheard a discussion between 2 businessmen about a new app idea to connect small traders directly with buyers in rural areas. The concept fascinated him. After everyone left, he borrowed a broken laptop from a friend and began learning app development through free online tutorials. He worked tirelessly, sleeping only a few hours each night. He coded at internet cafes, often skipping meals just to buy data time. Amara sometimes brought him food and sat quietly beside him, watching his face glow with determination. "You're going to make it, Toby," she always said. One night, exhausted but inspired, he finally created a prototype app he called MarketLink, a platform to help local farmers sell directly to city customers without middlemen. He presented the idea at a small tech fair, his shirt old but his confidence bright. When he stepped on stage, many laughed at his appearance. "Who let this street boy come up here?" someone muttered. But when Toby began explaining how his app could transform local trade, silence filled the hall. His words were pure, passionate, and full of understanding of real market struggles. A man from a startup fund approached him afterward. "You built this yourself?" "Yes, sir," Toby replied. The man smiled. "Come see me tomorrow. I think we can work together." That was the beginning of the miracle. Within months, Toby's idea received seed funding. He assembled a small team of young programmers, all from humble backgrounds like his. Amara stood beside him every step, encouraging him, helping with business contacts. When MarketLink launched officially, it exploded across Nigeria's trade sectors. Farmers from villages could now reach big city markets directly through the app. In just 5 years, Toby Adeyemi became a name known in the business world. News outlets called him the boy who rose from the dustbin. He was invited to speak at events, to inspire youth, to share his journey. And every time he stood on stage, he remembered that rainy day, the fried yam, the sachet water, the smile of a kind girl. One morning, as the golden sun rose over Lagos, a convoy of cars entered a small street in Surulere, Amara Street. Children ran after them, shouting and laughing. People peeked from their windows, wondering what was happening. From the black SUV stepped a tall, well-dressed man in a navy blue suit, Toby. His face was calm, but his eyes carried a storm of memories. He walked to Amara's compound, now older and freshly painted. Mama Ifeoma came out, confused. "Good morning, sir. Can I help you?" Toby smiled. "Good morning, Ma. I'm here to see Amara." Amara came out moments later, shocked. She recognized him instantly, though the boy in rags had now become a man of grace and success. "Toby," she whispered, her voice trembling. He smiled warmly. "It's been a long journey, Amara." Tears filled her eyes. "You made it." He nodded slowly. "Because you believed in me when no one else did." That day, he handed her an envelope, a document making her a partner in his company. "You gave me food when I had nothing," he said. "You gave me hope when I was broken. I want you to share this dream with me." Amara cried, speechless. Mama Ifeoma, standing behind her, wiped her eyes quietly. The entire neighborhood gathered, clapping and praising. "Toby the CEO," someone shouted. "God is good," another said. For Toby, it wasn't just about wealth. It was about transformation, the power of kindness, of one small act that changed a destiny. He looked at Amara and said softly, "The world may have given up on me, but you didn't." And that made all the difference. The morning after that emotional reunion, Lagos seemed to breathe differently for Toby Adeyemi. The same city that once spat him out was now whispering his name with pride. But as every African proverb says, when the rain stops, the mud remains. Behind the success, there were still scars that hadn't healed. He stood before a mirror in his penthouse apartment that overlooked the glittering lagoon, remembering how many nights he'd slept beside it. His phone buzzed constantly. Investors, journalists, invitations. Yet none of those calls gave him the peace he felt when he was beside Amara's humble home yesterday. He turned off the phone, sighed, and whispered to himself, "Don't ever forget where you came from, Toby." That same week, he organized a charity event through MarketLink Foundation, focused on helping street children get access to education and tech training. When reporters asked why, he smiled and said, "Because once upon a time, I was one of them." The event drew attention from the media and business leaders across Nigeria. Government officials praised his initiative. But not everyone celebrated his rise. In the shadow of his success lurked Jide, one of the men who had mocked Toby during his early tech fair days. Jide had launched his own startup that failed, and now envy burned through his veins. "That boy thinks he's better than us because of luck," Jide muttered to his associate, swirling a glass of whiskey. "Let's see how long his empire lasts." Meanwhile, Amara's life had changed too. After Toby's return, she began working as the head of MarketLink's community programs, overseeing projects in rural areas. She traveled often, to Kano, Ibadan, Enugu, teaching small traders how to use technology to sell their products. She loved her work, but even more, she admired how Toby remained humble. He still ate street food sometimes, still stopped to talk to children selling pure water by the roadside. One evening, as the sun melted into orange over the city skyline, Amara walked into Toby's office. "You've been avoiding rest again," she teased, dropping a folder on his desk. Toby smiled, rubbing his tired eyes. "Can't afford rest when people still believe poverty is their destiny." "You can't save everyone," she said softly. He looked up at her. "Maybe not. But I can try to light a few candles in the darkness." Their eyes met for a long second, the air between them thick with unspoken emotions. For Amara, he was more than a friend now. For Toby, she was more than his savior. She was the anchor that reminded him why he began. A few months later, MarketLink was nominated for Africa's fastest-growing startup. It was an honor beyond imagination. Toby and Amara traveled to Nairobi for the award ceremony. On the flight, Toby looked out the window, remembering how he used to watch planes from the ground, wondering where they went. Amara smiled, noticing his silence. "What are you thinking?" "About how far we've come," he said. She laughed softly. "You make it sound like a movie." He turned to her, his eyes gentle. It feels like one. Only that this movie was written by Hunger, Hope, and you. At the award ceremony, Toby stood on stage in a sleek black suit as flashes of cameras lit up the hall. He began his speech. 5 years ago, I was eating from dustbins. Today, I stand here not because I'm special, but because one person showed me kindness when I had nothing. Amara, this award belongs to you too. The audience erupted in applause. Amara's eyes filled with tears. The world saw success. She saw the boy under the rain who refused to give up. But as Toby's fame grew, so did enemies. Jide, the jealous rival, started spreading rumors that MarketLink was involved in shady deals. Online blogs picked up the lies. Former street boy runs fraud empire. Headlines screamed. Investors grew nervous. Contracts were delayed. Toby was furious but tried to stay calm. The truth will speak for itself, he told his team. But Amara saw how it ate him inside. Don't let them break your spirit, she said one evening in his office. He clenched his fists. I worked too hard for this, Amara. I can't let one jealous man destroy it. Then fight, she replied firmly. But fight with dignity. Days later, Toby confronted Jide at a business conference. Cameras flashed as both men shook hands coldly for the public. Congratulations on your success, Toby, Jide said, his smile dripping with sarcasm. Thank you, Toby replied evenly. But I wish success for you too. Maybe then you'd have less time for hate. The crowd chuckled. Jide's face turned red with anger, but he said nothing. Later that night, Jide tried to hack MarketLink's system to leak private client data. Fortunately, the IT team caught the attempt and traced it back to him. Toby didn't press charges. Instead, he exposed Jide's deceit at a press briefing. The public turned against Jide instantly. That day, Amara asked him, "Why didn't you have him arrested?" Toby smiled sadly. "Because I know what it's like to be desperate and lost. I won't destroy another man just to feel powerful." Amara looked at him for a long moment. "That's why people love you, Toby. You lead with heart." He chuckled softly. "And you're the heart behind the leader." Weeks turned into months, and MarketLink expanded across West Africa. Investors from Ghana and South Africa joined. Billboards with Toby's face appeared across Lagos. From the streets to CEO, MarketLink inspires Africa. But inside, Toby felt restless. Success was sweet, yet he longed for something more, something personal. One evening, he found himself at the same lagoon shore where he used to sit years ago. The city lights shimmered on the water like 1,000 dreams. He called Amara. "Can you come here?" When she arrived, he was standing by the water, hands in pockets, the breeze rustling his shirt. "I used to sleep here," he said quietly. "I'd look at those lights and tell myself I'd own one of them someday. But now that I have everything, I realize I'm still missing something." Amara tilted her head. "What's that?" He turned to her slowly. "You." She froze, her heart racing. "Toby." He took a step closer. "You gave me food when I was hungry. You gave me strength when I was weak. You gave me faith when I was lost. Amara, I can't imagine this life without you." Tears welled in her eyes. "You don't owe me anything, Toby." He smiled gently. "I'm not paying a debt. I'm following my heart." Under the moonlight, he held her hands, the same hands that once gave him fried yam. "Will you walk with me from now on, not as the girl who saved me, but as the woman I love?" Amara couldn't speak. She simply nodded as tears rolled down her cheeks. The sound of waves mixed with the beating of two hearts that had journeyed through pain, hunger, and hope, all to find each other again. The next morning, the internet exploded with photos of them together at a charity event. CEO Toby and his longtime friend Amara, Lagos power couple, the headlines read. Some admired, some gossiped, but Toby didn't care. He was finally happy. However, life in Africa has a way of testing happiness. One night, as Toby returned from a meeting, his car was stopped by unknown men. Before his guards could react, they dragged him out, masked and armed. They tied his hands and threw him into a van. The next morning, Lagos woke to shocking news. Tech CEO kidnapped. Police begin search. Amara's world collapsed. She rushed to the police station, trembling. "Please find him. He's done nothing but good for this country." Days turned into nights with no word. She barely ate or slept. Every call made her jump. Then, one midnight, she received an anonymous message. "If you want Toby alive, bring 50 million Nigerian nairas. Don't involve the police." She broke down crying. "Where will I find that kind of money?" Desperate, she called Toby's business partner, Mr. Adewale, the same man who once helped him at the training center. Together, they arranged a trap with the police. At the abandoned warehouse where the exchange was supposed to happen, the kidnappers appeared, and to everyone's shock, Jide was among them. The police ambushed and arrested them after a brief struggle. Toby was rescued, weak but alive. When he saw Amara, he whispered, "I knew you'd find me." She hugged him tightly, crying, "I thought I lost you." "You can't lose what's written in destiny," he said softly. After recovering, Toby decided to forgive Jide again. "Hatred is a prison," he said during a press conference. "And I've lived behind enough walls in my life." His mercy inspired the nation. People across Africa shared his story, the boy who rose from dustbins to become a leader with a golden heart. Amara stood beside him during every speech, her hand in his. Their love story became a symbol of hope, proof that one act of kindness could ripple through time, lifting generations. In an interview, when asked what kept him strong through all the storms, Toby replied, "Kindness. That's the real miracle of Africa. We may have little, but when we share what we have, we create greatness." And when the cameras turned off, he looked at Amara and smiled. "Let's build schools for street kids. Let's make sure no child ever eats from a dustbin again." She nodded, her eyes shining. Together. Fame had brought Toby respect, but it had also drawn shadows around him. Success in Lagos was a sweet fruit wrapped in thorns. Once you tasted it, you had to learn how to bleed quietly. After his kidnapping ordeal, the city embraced him even tighter. People hailed him as the people's CEO, and MarketLink grew faster than ever. But Toby was changing. He smiled less now, worked more, and trusted fewer people. The world he once dreamed of had come with whispers, politics, and competition that could crush even the strongest spirit. Amara noticed. "You barely sleep anymore," she said one evening as they sat on the balcony of his home, overlooking the lagoon. Toby leaned back in his chair, sighing. "Every time I close my eyes, I see my past. I see the streets, the dustbins, the cold." She placed her hand on his. "You've left that behind." He shook his head slowly. "The streets never leave you, Amara. They just wait in the corners of your mind, reminding you how easily it could all vanish." Her eyes softened. "Then let's make sure it never does. Let's build something that lasts, not just a company, but a legacy." That night, Toby couldn't sleep. Her words echoed in his head like music from an old radio. A legacy. That was what he needed. Not money, not fame, something that would live beyond him. A few weeks later, Toby announced the MarketLink Empowerment Academy, a project to train 10,000 underprivileged youths across Nigeria in business, coding, and creative arts. The announcement made headlines. Sponsors poured in. The first training center was to be built in Ajugunle, the same slum where Toby once scavenged for food. When he visited the site for the groundbreaking ceremony, the children gathered around him, cheering. "Uncle Toby!" they shouted. He knelt among them, smiling. "One day, one of you will be richer than me." They laughed, thinking he was joking. But he meant it. Amara watched him from a distance, her heart swelling with pride. He had become the man she always knew he could be, not because he had money, but because he never forgot to kneel among the poor. But even as good things bloomed, betrayal was waiting in the shadows. Inside MarketLink's boardroom, a silent war was brewing. Some senior directors, envious of Toby's growing public image, began plotting to take control of the company. They argued that his emotional decisions were hurting profits. One of them, Mr. Benson, a slick businessman in his 40s, secretly contacted a group of foreign investors. His plan was to sell MarketLink's majority shares without Toby's knowledge. Amara sensed something was wrong. She had seen the sudden board meetings, the confidential memos. One night, She entered Toby's office quietly and found him sitting in the dark, staring at his computer screen. "They're trying to take everything, Amara," he said, voice heavy. She froze. "Who?" He looked up, his eyes cold. "The people I trusted most." He showed her the documents, share transfers, false invoices, and private agreements. "They think I'm too soft because I forgive easily," he muttered. "They've mistaken kindness for weakness." Amara clenched her fists. "Then show them what a street boy can do." He smiled faintly. "That's exactly what I plan to do." Toby spent the next few days gathering evidence quietly. He contacted loyal staff, pulled records, and met with his lawyers. When the board met again at the company's headquarters in Victoria Island, they were confident he was defeated. Mr. Benson smirked as Toby walked into the room. "Ah, our CEO finally decided to join us," he said mockingly. Toby looked calm. "I was just giving you time to hang yourselves." The room went silent. He pressed a button on his laptop, and the projector lit up with confidential emails and recordings. Benson's face drained of color. "You've been selling what doesn't belong to you," Toby said firmly. "MarketLink was built for the people, not for greedy men." Security entered the room as Toby handed over files to the police. "You're finished, Adeyemi," Benson shouted as they dragged him away. Toby simply replied, "No, Benson. You're finished because you forgot where you came from." After that day, the company stood firmly behind him. Employees respected him not only as a boss but as a survivor who led with wisdom and fire. But victory came with a price. The stress of the ordeal took a toll on Toby's health. He began experiencing severe headaches and fainting spells. Amara begged him to see a doctor. "You've been pushing yourself too hard," she said, worry etched on her face. He smiled weakly. "How can I rest when there's still work to do?" "Toby, you're not a machine." "I know. But if I stop now, everything we built might crumble." One afternoon, during a board presentation, he collapsed. The room erupted in panic. He was rushed to Lagos University Teaching Hospital. The diagnosis came that evening: stress-induced hypertension and exhaustion. When he woke up, Amara was beside him, holding his hand tightly. He looked at her and whispered, "Did we win?" She smiled through tears. "You don't stop, do you?" He chuckled weakly. "Not until the world knows that even a boy from dustbins can build an empire." She leaned closer and whispered, "You already proved that, Toby. Now prove that you can take care of yourself too." For the next few weeks, she took care of him. She cooked, prayed, and even forced him to rest. During those quiet days, they rediscovered their peace. One evening, as they sat outside watching the sunset, Toby said, "You know, when I was a child, I thought God had forgotten me. But now I realize He was just preparing me for this." Amara nodded. "Sometimes God hides blessings inside pain." He turned to her, smiling faintly. "You were my blessing inside pain." Her heart melted. "You always know what to say." "I just speak the truth," he said softly. As Toby recovered, MarketLink expanded into East Africa. Kenya, Uganda, and Rwanda all adopted his platform for their small business sectors. He became a continental figure, appearing on magazine covers and international panels. But despite all the fame, he still visited Ajugunle every month. He'd walk through the streets, greet old women, and give out scholarships to children. People would shout, "Not our boy, our own Toby Don Makam." The pride of his people meant more to him than any award. One day, as he sat with the children outside the academy, one little boy asked, "Uncle Toby, is it true you used to eat from dustbins?" Toby smiled and nodded. "Yes, it's true. Weren't you ashamed?" He looked at the boy gently. "I was hungry, not ashamed. Shame doesn't feed you. Hope does." The children laughed, and Amara, watching from the window, wiped her eyes. She saw in that moment that the boy she had once helped was now helping thousands. Yet, as life would have it, the next storm wasn't from the outside, it came from within. During a financial audit, it was discovered that one of the new managers had embezzled over 200 million Nigerian nairas. The media exploded again. Scandal rocks MarketLink. Toby was furious. He called an emergency meeting. This company was built on integrity, he thundered. If we lose that, we lose everything. The guilty manager confessed, crying, "Sir, I'm sorry. My family was in debt. I didn't know what else to do." Toby looked at him, torn between anger and compassion. He remembered his own desperate days. "Pay it back, every naira," he said firmly. "But you'll keep your job, under supervision. Everyone deserves one more chance." Amara pulled him aside afterward. "You're too kind, Toby. People take advantage of that." He smiled faintly. "Maybe. But if kindness built me, I won't let cruelty define me." That night, he sat alone in his office, staring at the city lights. He thought of his mother, of hunger, of Amara, of all the people who had doubted him. And he whispered a silent prayer. "Lord, let my story remind others that even from the dirt, a flower can grow." He didn't know it then, but that prayer would soon echo across the world. Because weeks later, a global media outlet released a documentary titled From Dustbins to Boardrooms, the Toby Adeyemi story. It went viral across Africa and beyond. People cried watching it. Parents used it to teach their children resilience. Schools invited him to speak. And in every speech, he began the same way. "If you see a child on the street, don't look away. That was me once." And one hand, one act of kindness, changed everything. The love between Toby and Amara deepened during this period. They were no longer just partners in business. They were soulmates molded by struggle. One evening, Toby surprised her with a small box. Inside was a simple gold ring. He knelt before her and said softly, "Amara Ifeoma, you gave me life when the world gave me nothing. Will you give me forever too?" She gasped, tears spilling down her face. "Toby, yes." The whole compound erupted in cheers. Even the street kids who once called him Uncle Toby danced and shouted, "Our Mama Don Mary CEO." They married in a small church ceremony filled with laughter, drums, and songs that shook the sky. Toby wore a white agbada embroidered with gold, and Amara glowed in a traditional lace gown that shimmered like sunlight. As they exchanged vows, he whispered, "You once gave me food. Now you've given me everything." She smiled through tears. "And you gave my kindness a purpose." 5 years later, the city of Accra looked different to Kofi. The same streets that once spat him out, now bowed under the wheels of his black Range Rover. He had returned, not as the boy in rags, but as Kofi Mensah, the founder and CEO of Brightpath Tech Solutions, one of the fastest-growing startups in West Africa. His company had branches in Ghana, Nigeria, and Kenya, employing hundreds of young Africans who once knew the pain of hunger and rejection. He looked out through the tinted glass at the familiar market near Kwame Nkrumah Circle. Children still ran barefoot, hawking sachet water and groundnuts, dodging cars just as he had once done. His heart clenched. He remembered the nights when he fought with dogs for bread, when shame was his only blanket. But above all, he remembered Amma, the girl who had given him bread, warmth, and hope when the world offered none. He had searched for her for months after becoming successful. He asked around in Medina, in the old neighborhoods, in churches and schools. Nobody seemed to know where she had gone. Some said her family had moved to the countryside after her mother fell ill. Others said she got married and left the city. But Kofi refused to give up. He owed her his life, and he wasn't leaving without finding her. One sunny afternoon, he drove to the old community where they once lived, the same place where his journey had begun. The roads were still dusty, the children's laughter still echoed through cracked walls, and women still sold fried plantains at the corners. He stepped out of his car, and the people stared. "Ei, look at that fine man. He looks like someone from TV," one woman whispered. Kofi smiled politely and approached the plantain seller. "Good afternoon, Ma. Please, do you know anyone named Amma? She used to live here some years ago. Her mother sold vegetables near the bus stop." The woman's face softened. "Ah, Amma. That fine, quiet girl. She left some years back to care for her sick mother in her village, somewhere near Cape Coast, I think." Kofi's eyes glimmered with hope. "Cape Coast? Please, do you know exactly where?" The woman shook her head. "No, my son. But if you go to the church over there, the pastor might know. Amma used to sing in the choir." Within the hour, Kofi found himself sitting across from an elderly pastor in a small, wooden church. The man smiled warmly as he listened to Kofi explain who he was and why he was there. "Ah," the pastor said, adjusting his glasses. "You must be the young man Amma always spoke about. She told us about a boy she once helped, a boy from the streets. She said helping you was one of the best things she ever did. I haven't seen her in some time, but I know she's in her mother's village. I can give you directions." Kofi bowed his head in gratitude. "Thank you, sir. I must find her." The road to Amma's village was long and rough. His car struggled on the dusty path that cut through endless fields of maize and cassava. When he finally arrived, it was evening, the orange sun dipping low behind the palm trees. The village was small, peaceful, and alive with the smell of wood smoke and the sound of drums from somewhere in the distance. He parked near a small hut painted blue and white, surrounded by flowers. An elderly woman sat outside, peeling cassava. Kofi approached with a gentle smile. "Good evening, Ma," he greeted. "I'm looking for someone named Amma." The woman raised her head slowly. Her face was lined with years of hardship, but her eyes were kind. "Amma?" she asked softly. "My daughter." Kofi's heart jumped. "Yes, Ma. Is she here?" The woman's eyes filled with tears. "You must be Kofi." Kofi froze. You know my name?" She nodded. "Amma told me everything. How she met you. How you changed her faith in people. She prayed every day that you would find your way in life. You have done well, my son." "Thank you, Ma," Kofi said, his voice trembling. "But please, where is she now?" The old woman looked away, her lips quivering. "She's at the small school behind the mango trees. She teaches the children there. She never gave up on helping others, even when life was hard." Kofi bowed deeply and walked toward the school. The sound of children laughing reached him before he saw her. The little classroom was made of mud and wood, its roof patched with tin. Inside, a young woman in a faded dress was teaching multiplication tables, her voice clear and full of patience. When she turned and their eyes met, the world seemed to stop. Amma froze, her chalk falling to the ground. "Kofi," she whispered, disbelief in her voice. Tears welled in his eyes as he stepped forward. "Amma, I finally found you." The children looked around, confused, whispering among themselves. Amma's lips trembled as she took a step toward him. "Is it really you? You look so different." Kofi smiled through tears. "Because of you, Amma. You believed in me when no one else did. You gave me food when I had nothing. You gave me hope." Amma covered her mouth, tears streaming down her cheeks. "Oh, Kofi, I only did what anyone should have done." He shook his head. "No, Amma. You did what only a rare soul would do. You saw me as human when everyone saw trash. You lifted me from dust to destiny." The children clapped unknowingly, sensing something beautiful unfolding before them. Kofi reached into his pocket and pulled out an envelope. "Amma, I came to give you something. I built a school in Accra for children from poor backgrounds, just like me. I want you to be its head teacher. It will bear your name, the Amma Foundation for Hope." Amma's eyes widened. "Kofi, this is too much." He interrupted softly. "No, it's not enough." The two stood there for a long moment, the evening sun painting their faces gold. Around them, the children played, their laughter echoing through the village. Weeks later, the new school opened in the city. Journalists came, cameras flashed, and dignitaries gave speeches. But Kofi stood quietly beside Amma, watching her speak to the crowd with humility and grace. "This," she said, "is not just a school. It's proof that kindness is never wasted. That one act of love can grow into something powerful." Kofi's journey reminds us that we should never judge anyone by where they are, but by what they can become. The crowd applauded. Kofi felt tears burn his eyes again. He looked at Amma, the girl who had saved him from despair, and knew that no matter how rich or powerful he became, she would always be his greatest blessing. That night, after the celebration, Kofi and Amma walked by the seaside. The waves whispered softly against the shore. "You know," Kofi said, smiling, 5 years ago, I used to sleep right there, under that bridge. I used to dream that one day, someone would believe in me. Amma looked at him, her face glowing under the moonlight. And now look at you, Kofi Mensah, the boy who became a CEO. He laughed softly. No, Amma. The boy you believed in. They walked in silence for a while before Amma asked, So what's next for you? Kofi turned to her, his expression serious yet tender. What's next? To never forget where I came from. To never stop giving. And, he hesitated, to never lose you again. Amma's heart raced. Kofi. He took her hand gently. Amma, I don't know what the future holds, but I know this. You were my light when I was lost. I want to walk beside you, not just as a friend, but as a partner in life. Amma's eyes filled with tears once more, but this time they were tears of joy. I don't know what to say, she whispered. Kofi smiled. Say yes. And under the moonlit sky, with waves breaking gently at their feet, she nodded. Yes, Kofi. Years later, people in Ghana would tell the story of Kofi and Amma, the boy who rose from dustbins to destiny, and the girl whose kindness changed a life. Their school grew into an institution that educated thousands of children. Together, they showed Africa and the world that success born of compassion is the greatest success of all. When Kofi stood before the graduating class of 2030, he said something that echoed through generations. I was once invisible to the world. But one girl's kindness made me visible again. If you ever meet someone in rags, remember, you might be standing before tomorrow's leader. Help them rise. Because the greatest wealth is not money, it's humanity. The audience erupted in applause. Amma stood beside him, smiling proudly. Their journey, from dust to diamonds, had come full circle.